Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we will have a little bit discussion about the maps, and yeah, we haven't talked about them in quite a while. In the background, you see me first playing the PT-76, and then later on you will see me playing on the Italy map with a few aircraft and then a very nice ending scene. So, what is there to talk about maps? Well, it is about their size and how interesting large maps are. I just looked into the map rotation filter, and I'm very glad that this feature exists, but I don't think that it is polished enough at this very point in time. I think that when we have overall 12 small maps and various amounts of subvariants of them, and we also have 13 small city maps, that's overall 25 small maps with subvariants overall in War Thunder for ground vehicles, that is. And then we just look at the amount of big maps. Well, there are only really 5 of them: Kursk, Fulda, Fields of Poland, European Province, and the Maginot Line. There are just a handful of maps that I like. Amongst them, Mozdok, Sansa Sinai, Finland, Cuban, and Tunisia. Also, to a certain extent, the Second Battle of El Alamein. Now, this is very subjective, obviously, but when we come to the objective part, we can summarize Kursk, Fulda, Fields of Poland, European Province, and Maginot Lines as some of the largest maps that we have in War Thunder, but they are filled with nothing but void, with emptiness. There is nothing that really is of substance up until the point that you engage the enemy at rather short ranges in the first place, because you travel for like what feels like 3-4 minutes, and then you're in a close combat scenario anyway, because first you drive over open fields, and then, you know, there is either a city or there is just a few obstacles in that capture zone. And yeah, that is also in conjunction with the game modes, but they shall not be discussed today. Now, I think that there are great opportunities with some of the maps, and some of the largest maps can be fixed by just repositioning the locations of the spawns and also relocation of the objectives. For example, Kursk. I personally love to go to the riverside and then to fight my way through there. And yeah, it looks like it's very open. On the other hand, you can use the terrain, you can use also the forest, and that gives you opportunity. Now, this is not able to be done with any tank. And we also saw so much power creep that what was once possible, like angling your armor and just showing who's the king of the battlefield, quite literally the target too, at long range with the long 88, with that amount of rate of fire, with that good penetration, and also with the armor that you could angle, and you just were rocking forwards and backwards, and so you made it really difficult for the enemies to snipe your weak spot. We're not talking about tanks with APFSTs, we're not talking about your tanks with Heat FS. I think that this is a lost flavor of War Thunder. We have so many tanks in War Thunder. Obviously not every tank is designed for close quarter combat, right? And so you have to keep this in mind. A lot of tanks were designed to just peek out, take a shot, and go back into cover. Tanks were designed for working ridge lines, for example, the Chieftains, a prime example of this. And so they very rarely find actually a position where they can fulfill their design role. What a lot of people want to experience: how good is the tank actually in that position? Now, a lot of those combat scenarios take into account defending, and as many also require you to attack, and some tanks are better in attacking than defending, and the other way around. So I think that with all those city maps, it's just always the same for me personally. You go in, you try to find an opening in the enemy front line, you try to find the flanks, and you try to get as many kills as possible, flank as hard as possible, and cap as many of the capping points as possible. But a map like this, this is European Province in a very special iteration. Again, just showing how many subvariants of the actual maps are there in War Thunder. I think this is a great map, because there is no pure going forwards and just meeting the enemy head on. As a light tank, I absolutely love this because I can scout, I can flank, I can suppress the enemy light tanks and can help out my team by winning the flank, securing the flank, just denying the enemy team the crossfire while I create this in return. As a player that just knows way too much about the game, please don't take this as an arrogant statement. That's just, I'm playing this 24/7, you know, if not now, when, then should I know so much about the game? It's very often difficult to really describe everything that I have in my mind because a video in 13, 14 minutes is very often not enough to discuss every single point that is there to be discussed from every angle. And after a certain time, such a discussion can be a bit boring, I admit. But as you can see, there is also the terrain. There are ridgelines, there are hills, there are bushes, there are trees that also can hide in between from aircraft. There is so much that you can do with a light tank. There is so much that you could do with a heavy tank. And there are so many opportunities for medium tanks. And also this map is not just pure long-range engagement. From in this iteration, you can choose. You can very often choose. Do you want the long-range engagements, or you want to bypass this sniping fest and you just want to go into the city in close quarters? You have the choice. The majority of maps just don't leave you that choice. And so a lot of tanks just miss their design point, right? So imagine, for example, rank 4 Germany versus rank 4, let's say, Soviets. The Soviets have to attack versus the Germans in defense. That is heavily biased in the German defense. Not accounting here for the heat FS like the RU-251 throwers, So this again then requires this fine balance where you don't want something like an Object 120 on the enemy team sniping your Tiger II all over the place, right? So I think maps can be designed and established in a way that they give many opportunities. And I just want to mention here 2 maps that I absolutely hate. The first one is American Desert. It's just purely a city map, and it is close quarters. I don't like this. But my most hated map is Italy. But Italy can redeem itself, the map that is, not the country, by just turning the spawns by 90 degrees. Okay, that was meme-worthy by itself, but hear me out. Both teams close in on a linear city fight, right? So why not turn the spawns by 90 degrees? So you have 2 rather open areas, but you also have then the entire length of the city. And everybody can choose when to go in and out of the city, when to fight in the open, or purely go through the middle. And I think that would be great as a try, I would love to see an iteration of Italy, like you can see here, where you don't want to go through the open over and over again. So, again, the map is big. You have a certain travel time, but the actual combat zone is then nothing but the city. And I just have enough of them. Again, I just counted it. We have 25 small maps. Purely small maps. We have 25. Whereas then we just have a handful, not even 10, of bigger maps. And that's before we come to talk about all the subvariants like encounter, battle, and whatever version you have. And the map rotation filter, I have to say, sadly, it doesn't work. And also it switches between the map rotation between the tiers. For example, if we talk about Cuban, right? If you talk about the Cuban map, I think that this is a fantastic map with all the ridgelines, the ups and downs, and just the hill fight. I love this. And it's also perfectly suited from the size for small tanks. So for rank 1 and 2, it's a perfectly viable map. Is it good though for main battle tanks, for Abrams fighting Leopards and the other way around, and Ariete here and there? I'm not quite sure. I think for rank 6 and 7, the discussion for maps is a bit pointless because it's high tier Call of Duty anyway, in my opinion. The stabilizers, the APFSDS, that just make distance a little bit irrelevant. But on the other hand, maybe some of those tanks would do a bit differently if they have a bit more breathing space, if you have a bit more room to react. And again, just like with the chieftains in their hull down positions, that would be great, you know? And so I think it's not just talking here about the maps themselves, but also the game modes, the scenarios that you just present to the players. I just wanted to highlight here a few things that are really burned into my memory. The first time that I saw the Kursk map, it was actually not in War Thunder itself, but on YouTube by the Mighty Jingles. And it was just that it was so epically large. It was a completely different gaming experience. Yes, you could get lost on it, but if you played it a few times, you just figured out where roughly everything was. And then you had just so many opportunities. Yes, I think for rank 1 and 2 tanks it was pure overkill, because the combat distances are by nature much shorter, but once you reach rank 3, 4, especially back in the days with the Tigers, Panthers, and you know, the equivalent tanks of other nations, you just wanted to stay a little bit at range. But then the downfall of the map design began. Also, there are 2 videos still on my channel that really show how awesome it can be if armor has a value, not just from the point of a content creator, but really the game feel, you know, where the gaming experience is so much more awesome. And it comes again together a little bit with the power creep discussion. Back in the days, you just could get there, out there, if you are quick enough in your target 2, and you could reach a position where you were in the open, where you could angle your armor and you just bounced the shots. You received all the shots incoming and you tried to snipe back, but you were constantly repairing. But it was epic up until a plane came and put the pain on you, but that's another discussion again. And also, one of those greatest battles that I ever had was in the E100, you know, just angling and just absorbing so many shots and killing the tanks left, right, and center and just smoking up. And I think that the game has dumbed down, and I think that the maps are a symptom of this. And very often I don't understand, because then whenever we ask for large maps, it's not that I ask for a physically large map, but I want a map full of opportunities, full of variety, and that is sadly not given. That is sadly not given. As I said, they are filled with emptiness, they are filled with nothing. Kursk, you just drive and drive and drive, and then you are in a city fight again. Fulda, you drive and drive and drive, and then you shoot around the corner in the castle, or around the buildings in the caps, right? The same with European Province and Marginal Line. Large maps are once more a great idea, and again, Gaijin failed to implement them in a way that is really appealing. And I could be wrong, and this is your opportunity to tell me in the comment section, or to agree, or what you think about this topic. And just watch this spawn kill, because that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and as usual, we will see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.